She didn't yell. She didn't slam doors. She smiled. And that smile, quiet, steady, terrifying, was the last thing her husband and his mother expected when they walked into her home and started deciding who would sleep in which room. Jessica had been married for exactly 90 days. 90 days of overlooked red flags, a mother-in-law who treated her like a guest in her own house, and a husband who handed his bank card to his mother a month after the wedding. She had told herself it was just growing pains. She was wrong, because on that Tuesday afternoon, standing in the living room her parents had worked decades to give her, she realized the truth. She hadn't married a man. She had become the final piece in a family's long-game real estate plan. What she said next in that dead silent room, in the calmest voice you've ever heard, is the reason this story needs to be told. Sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is not fight loud. It's fight smart. If that hit home, leave a comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Like the video and subscribe, because stories like this one deserve to be seen. This content was manually researched, developed, and edited by our team with the intention of delivering meaningful stories and real-life lessons to our audience.
I knew Brian Collins was a snake from the second I met him, so when my phone blew up and Jessica's name flashed on the screen, my stomach dropped. She told me later how he stood there, arm in arm with his mother, carving up the beautiful townhouse her parents bought her. "We'll have keys made tomorrow," he'd declared. But I knew my girl. Even through her tears, I could hear the steel in her voice as she told me how she let the silence hang before ending their little fantasy. He actually said, "Upstairs for my parents, downstairs for my sister and her son," Jess sobbed into the phone. I could just picture it. Brian puffing out his chest in the middle of her living room, acting like some low-rent king dividing his spoils, and his mother, Sharon, just lapping it up. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. The worst part was how casual he was. Jess was just bringing in snacks when she heard him plotting the hostile takeover of her own home. She told me she almost dropped the tray. I could hear the lingering fury in her voice when she described Sharon's instant snap. "Jessica, be careful." As if Jess was the one causing a problem. "She had the nerve to say the plates looked expensive," Jess whispered, her voice cracking, "that I'd need to be more careful with everyone moving in." I gripped my phone tighter, my knuckles white. And Brian? He just smirked, thinking his little lamb was finally falling in line. I wanted to reach through the phone and smack that smug look off his face myself. The whole time, his mother was making herself at home, picking out the master bedroom like she was browsing a Zillow listing. "This is perfect, Brian," she'd cooed. It was only after he'd promised his mommy the best room in the house that he even bothered to look at his own wife. Then he tells me the office, my office, is going to be for his nephew, Jess said, her voice thick with disbelief. That house wasn't just some building. It was 1,400 square feet of her parents' love and sacrifice. It was supposed to be her safe place, her future. And these vultures were picking it clean. "They said it was temporary, Liv," she cried, "just while their place was being renovated." I snorted. We both knew that was a lie from day one. Temporary had turned into a full-scale invasion. That's when I heard the shift in her. "I asked him to say it again," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "I wanted to hear him say it again." Of course, he immediately tried to play the victim. He gave me the whole, "Honey, you're so reasonable" speech, she recounted, her tone dripping with sarcasm. He'd trotted out the same tired lines, his aging parents, his struggling single mom sister. "This house is huge," he'd said, as if that gave him the right to colonize it. I cut him off right there, she said, and I felt a surge of pride. "Empty?" I asked him. "Our home is the one with the paint fumes, remember?" And then Sharon, the wicked witch herself, swooped in. "Jessica, what is that tone?" I could just hear the venom. She told me, "His family is your family now," Jess mimicked, her voice hollow. That's when it all clicked for her. 3 months of red flags she'd tried to ignore. Sharon demanding more money at the wedding, the endless, invasive questions about her parents' finances. It was all adding up. The first month of their marriage, he'd given his mother his debit card. Just last week, Jess overheard him on the phone, telling someone, "What's hers will be ours soon enough." She'd wanted to believe it was just a rough patch. "I was an idiot, Liv," she whispered. "It was never a marriage. It was a long con." "He tried his puppy dog eyes on me," she said, "the you believe in family guilt trip." He painted this picture of his poor, hard-working family who just needed a little help. The same family that had been sizing up her assets since day one. And his mom backed him up, telling me to fix my attitude. Jess continued, her voice hardening. That a wife's priority is her husband's family. Can you believe that? Letting them live in this empty house was the right thing to do. "He never asked me," she said, a quiet fury building. "In this whole grand plan, he never once thought about what I wanted." That was the moment she saw it all clearly. I asked him, "Did it ever cross your mind this is my house?" She said his whole smug face just crumbled. "That's my girl. What's yours is mine." He'd spat at her, trying to use the law as a weapon. And Sharon, sensing she was losing control, tried to play the sweet mother-in-law. "I know you're not used to a big family," the condescending witch had said. "She actually suggested we try it and talk later," Jess said with a bitter laugh, as if I'd let them move a single toothbrush in. I told her, "Good, don't give them an inch." She saw them for what they were, a tag team of grifters. 3 months. That's all it took for her wedding dress to feel like a costume from another lifetime. She'd thought he was her partner, and here he was, demanding she hand over her entire future to his parasitic family. That's when she told me about the smile that crept onto her face. It was the moment the prey decided to become the predator. "You're right," I told him. "We're married," she recounted, and I could hear the smirk in her voice. He and Sharon lit up, thinking they'd won. Then she delivered the checkmate. "So by that logic, we should add my parents' names to your condo deed, right? What's yours is mine, after all." I swear, I actually cheered into my phone. "Liv, you should have seen their faces." She laughed, a real laugh this time. The blood just drained out of Brian's face. Sharon looked like a goldfish. Jess told me she just kept smiling that sweet, poisonous smile. "And your condo is in a better school district," she'd added. "Perfect for your nephew." The final twist of the knife. "So how about your family moves into your condo and we stay here?" He lost it, pointed a trembling finger at her. "How can you be so calculating?" Her reply was perfect. "Calculating? Didn't you start this conversation?" Game, set, and match. That's when Sharon found her voice again, shrieking about how they thought Jessica was respectable, not some schemer. "I remembered picking out paint with my mom," Jess told me softly, "and I just knew. No one was taking this from me. I dropped the smile," Jess said, her voice pure ice. And I told her, "Sharon, this house is in my name, only my name. It's a premarital asset. It has nothing to do with Brian." She let that sink in before adding, "Just like his condo has nothing to do with me." The rage in his voice when he said, "Fine," must have been epic. "He tried to paint me as the bad guy," she said, "guarding your assets from the start. And can you believe him?" I shot back. "Says the guy who just tried to steal your house." Her reply to him was perfect. "I'd never have realized I married into your family's 30-year free housing scheme." And then she did it. She walked to her front door and threw it wide open. "The tour's over," she told them. She gave Brian an ultimatum. Come back tonight or don't. But the new house rule? No one enters this house unless I invite them. That includes you. Queen. Absolute queen. The second that lock clicked, she told me the storm broke outside. Wailing from Sharon, bellows from Brian. She slid to the floor, finally letting herself shake. But she didn't cry. 3 months, Liv. It was a 3-month-long con. I could hear them yelling through the phone. I knew she was no good. And Jessica opened the door. Pathetic. We just sat there in silence for a minute, listening to their impotent rage. They didn't want to talk. They wanted to win. That's when I told her, "Okay, Jess, Time for the next step. Call your mom. I heard her take a shaky breath. For 3 months, every call home had been a performance, a tightrope walk of everything's wonderful. She confessed how she'd brushed off her parents' concerns. They'd clocked Sharon's greedy eyes from the very first meeting. They saw the red flags she'd been determined to ignore. We both knew they'd seen it. "I'm marrying him, not his mother," she quoted herself, disgust in her voice. What a naive idiot I was. She took a deep breath before making the call, forcing her voice to be steady. Her mom, of course, knew instantly something was wrong. Mothers always do. "I just told her I had a cold," Jess said. "But I had to be sure. I asked about the deed." Her mom confirmed it was safe, in a deposit box. "And it's 100% in my name only, correct?" Jess asked. The absolutely on the other end was the first real breath she'd taken all day. Her mom's suspicion sharpened instantly. "Jessica, is Brian's family trying to make a play for the house?" Jess didn't even have to answer. "I knew it," her mom snapped. "The way they kept asking about the deed." Then her dad got on the phone, his voice a protective roar. "That house is your father's and my life's work. Nobody is touching it." I felt a wave of relief for her. She had her family and she had me. We were her wall. "He told me a premarital asset is untouchable," she relayed, "that the law is on my side." After she hung up, she noticed the noise outside had stopped. They were gone. For now. I knew Brian Collins was a parasite the first time I met him. It was in his eyes, that quick calculating scan of a room, sizing everything up. When his mother, Sharon, cornered me at that first dinner and asked about Jess's inheritance with a sickly, sweet smile, I felt a cold dread in my gut. Jess was too blinded by love to see the flashing red warning signs. He moved in with one single suitcase 3 months ago. One. He'd spun some romantic line about how she was his home. "What a crock," I muttered. He never saw it as their home. He saw it as his family's new free ride. Right on cue, his text came through. She read it out loud to me. "Jess, Mom and I were out of line. Can I come home and we can talk?" I told her, "Do not reply." Another one popped up. "Mom went home. I'm coming back now. We're husband and wife. We can fix this." The nerve of this guy. Fix what? His failed heist? 5 minutes later, he was calling. I told her to let it ring, let him panic. He called again. The third time, we made a decision. She answered, put it on speaker, and said nothing. I heard his voice dripping with that fake, syrupy sweetness that now just sounded like poison. "Jess, are you still upset? I'm sorry about my mom." I just shook my head, ready for round 2. This was far from over. I knew Brian Collins was a snake from the second I laid eyes on him. Jess, my Jess, saw a charming guy. I saw a calculator with a heartbeat. So when she told me what he said after she caught him and his mother carving up her condo, I wasn't surprised. He apparently whined about his dad's knees and his sister's pathetic finances. Jess told me her voice went dead calm when she called him out. "So, for 3 months you've seen my home as your family's safety net?" He tried to gaslight her, of course. "It's not a plot, Jess," he'd apparently whimpered. "We're family. What's the big deal? You have extra rooms." The sheer audacity. As if she owed them a free ride. Jess said she'd shot back. "You were dividing my house like pirates splitting treasure." Then he had the nerve to say, "We'd take the master bedroom," as if he were doing her a favor. She told me she just laughed in his face, a bitter, cold laugh. "It's a brilliant plan, Brian," she'd said, laying it all out for him. "Settle your family in my house, rent your own place for passive income, and wait for the market to go up." She said the silence on his end was deafening. She'd nailed it. He'd been hunting for a woman with property, not a wife. The creep had the gall to get indignant. "That's an ugly thing to say, Jessica. I married you because I love you." Love. The word must have tasted like poison coming from him, because what he meant was he loved her real estate portfolio. Jess laid it all out for him on that call. The debit card he gave his mom a month in. The way he guilted her into buying lavish gifts for her parents, while his got nothing from him. Bringing his viper of a mother over to case the joint. Every red flag I'd tried to warn her about. He just stammered excuses. My mom was helping us save. Your parents are rich. The desperation was palpable even in her retelling. And then my girl, my brilliant, strong Jess, dropped the bomb. Brian, she'd said, her voice clear as a bell. I want a divorce. The shock on his end was a victory. He called her insane, like this was some tiny disagreement. A small thing, she'd roared at him. Your family scheming to colonize my home isn't small. She asked him what was next, kicking her parents out for his, selling her condo to fund his loser family. He swore he'd never, but the damage was done. How could she ever see him as anything but a leech after that? A user who thought marriage was a one-way ticket to her bank account. He hung up. Jess told me a laugh just tore out of her, sharp and broken. And that's when the sobs hit her. Not for him, never for him. For herself. For the hope she'd carried down that aisle 3 months ago. For being so wrong. And right then, my own phone buzzed. Her name flashed on the screen. Hey girl, what's up? I said, all bright and breezy. Liv. Her voice was so broken it was barely a whisper. My blood went cold. Whoa, what's wrong? Did that bastard Brian do something? My tone flipped like a switch. Where are you? She said she was home. I'm on my way, I snapped. She tried to refuse, the classic, I'm fine, but I could hear the lie. I knew it was his mother, or his deadbeat sister. I'd been saying it for months. The way his eyes scanned a room, pricing everything out. The way his family felt like a pack of wolves circling. We'd even fought about it once, her defending him. Liv, she cried. Does getting divorced make me a failure? I almost dropped the phone. Are you kidding me? I shouted. Figuring out a guy as a con artist in 3 months isn't failure. It's a world record in diagnostics. Jess, if you divorce that parasite, I'm buying champagne and fireworks. Now tell me everything. And she did. The whole sordid story. I just listened, my knuckles white on my steering wheel. When she finished, I took a deep, steadying breath. A whole family of vampires, I said, my voice low and furious, and they think they're entitled to your house. You change the locks. First thing tomorrow. Does that lowlife have his name on the deed? No, she whispered. Then what are you waiting for? My voice was pure ice. You divorce him now. If you let them in, they will never, ever leave. They will suck the life out of you, I insisted. But what will people say? She asked, her voice small. People? Who gives a damn about people? You mean the vultures waiting for you to stumble? I was practically yelling now. This is your life, Jessica, not theirs. A 3-month divorce is a victory lap compared to 30 years of misery with that trash. I softened my voice. Jess, remember in college? You were a firecracker. You swore you'd never let any man walk all over you. Don't let them put out your fire. I could feel the shift over the phone, the steel sliding back into her spine. That was my girl. When had she let them dim her light? Probably the first time his mother whispered that a good wife stays quiet. You're right, Liv, she said, her voice gaining strength. You're damn right I am, I said. So what's the plan? Separation, she declared. I need to tell my parents, but he is never setting foot in my home again. Good. You need a lawyer. My cousin David is a shark. I'm getting you his number. But first, let me ask him something for you. Is there any way that creep gets a piece of your house? I asked, already knowing the answer. 0, I told her before she could even worry. Premarital asset, paid in full. Your name only. He won't get a splinter, but document everything. Did he pay for any upgrades? No, just some furniture. Perfect. Keep the receipts. He'd never bought her a thing of value. She, on the other hand, had dropped over $2,000 on a watch for him and gold for his mother. Consider it a donation to the Pathetic Losers Fund, I snarled. I'm texting David now. Lock your doors. I've got a bad feeling Brian's not done yet." We hung up and she texted me a few minutes later. Brian was downstairs. "Jess, I messed up. Can we please talk?" He'd written, "Pathetic." He was standing under a streetlight with flowers trying to play the romantic hero. She told me she just looked down at him and felt nothing but cold contempt. 3 months ago, she would have run down there. Now, she just saw a pathetic actor. How much did those flowers cost? What tiny fraction of the assets he was trying to steal? She ignored his texts. A minute later, an unknown number called her. She answered, and it was Linda, the sister. "Jessica, this is Linda," she'd cooed. "Brian said you were upset. I just wanted to help smooth things over." "Family shouldn't fight," the sister had the audacity to say. Jess hung up and blocked her. "That's my girl." She went straight to her office and pulled out the deed, her armor. Registered owner, Jessica Miller, a single woman. She told me reading those words was like breathing for the first time in months. They were her power, her boundary, her goddamn property. Brian was still yelling her name from the street below. "Jess, open up!" She could hear him shouting. She just walked to her room and locked the door. Tomorrow, the war would begin. The next morning, her doorbell started ringing like a fire alarm at 7:30. It wasn't Brian. It was Sharon, the head vampire herself, with Linda and her 6-year-old kid, Kevin, for backup. "Jessica, open this door!" Sharon was screeching. An ambush. Classy. But my friend was ready. My friend was a fortress. Jess told me she didn't rush. She got dressed, washed her face, and walked calmly to the door while Sharon screamed about calling the building manager, about how her husband had rights. Rights he'd pissed away the second he saw her as a walking ATM. She yanked the door open. The three of them froze, mid-attack. Sharon's fist was still raised to bang on the door. "Sharon, Linda, it's early," Jess said, her voice a lethal combination of calm and sweet, a smile playing on her lips. It threw them completely. "You have some nerve," Sharon finally sputtered. "Brian was downstairs all night," the old bat shrieked. "Is that how a wife acts?" Then the sister jumped in. "Locking my brother out is just cruel. Mom was so worried. They even used the kid." "Aunt Jess, Uncle Brian said you wouldn't let him in," he piped up. The full court press. Moral outrage, feigned concern, and a child for a guilt trip. "Brian is an adult," Jess said, cool as ice, and then she did the last thing they expected. "Come in. Let's talk." She was letting the wolves into her den, on her terms. I've never been more proud. I knew Brian was trash from the moment I met his family. Jess called me right after they stormed her house, telling me how his mother, Sharon, and sister Linda cased the joint. Not like guests, but like appraisers. She asked if the couch was real leather, Jess said, her voice shaking with rage. I knew this was coming. Jess told me how Sharon stood in the middle of her living room, acting like she owned the damn place, scolding her for being cruel. Cruel for not wanting her home invaded. She said Brian values me, Jess scoffed over the phone, and I just said, yeah, like a cash machine. They're trying to steal my house, Liv, she whispered. I told her, call it what it is, Jess, a hostile takeover. When she told me Sharon called it their marital home, I saw red. Tell her about prenup law, I coached her. Smile when you say it. Make it sting. Then tell her the words premarital property, I said, feeding her the lines. Tell her it has zero to do with that deadbeat. Jess relayed how Linda jumped in with that, you married the family garbage, and my blood just boiled. The nerve of those people. I was so proud when Jess told me she threw Linda's own divorce in her face. That was my idea. Ask her if she gave her ex half her condo, I'd told her. Watch her squirm. Jess said Linda turned beet red and sputtered. Checkmate. Okay, she's losing. So now comes the fake sweet act, I warned her over the phone. She's going to sound reasonable. Don't buy it. Sure enough, Jess said. Sharon's voice turned to honey, offering up a compromise that still involved them infesting her house. They wanted the master bedroom, the upstairs, the downstairs, a full-scale occupation. When Jess told me Sharon promised it was just for a while, I laughed. Ask her to define a while, Jess. A month, a year, until the kid graduates college? Jess said she was stunned. Good. Call them out, I told her, my voice low and fierce. Be direct. Ask them if the plan was to stay forever and steal your house. Jess said Sharon shrieked like she'd been burned. A hit dog will holler, I thought. She knew we were on to them. Did she really say, am I that kind of person? I asked, incredulous. Jess, you should have just said yes. Jess was better than me. She calmly reminded Sharon how Brian had already assigned permanent rooms to everyone. The mask was slipping. And of course, little Miss Freeloader Linda chimed in with her families support each other nonsense. Ask her how exactly she plans on supporting you, Jess, I said. With what money? From what job? It felt so good hearing Jess repeat it back to them. The part that really got me was when she told me about their kid, Kevin, how they pushed him forward to hug her leg and cry about wanting to live there. Using a child in your grift is a special kind of low. I could feel Jess's heart break, even through the phone. It's not his fault, I reminded her gently. They're using him as a pawn, and that's disgusting. She told me she knelt down and explained it to him, but the kid repeated the lie Brian had fed him. Uncle Brian said this is our new house. My God, the audacity. Of course, Linda freaked out, yanking the poor kid back. When the emotional blackmail didn't work, Sharon finally dropped the act. Jess said she squared her shoulders and announced, "The Collins family is moving in." As if she had any right, as if she were royalty. Then came the threat. If you know what's good for you... I've been waiting for this. The moment they show their true ugly colors. When Jess told me Sharon pointed in her face and threatened to be a difficult mother-in-law and make Brian divorce her, I started cheering. This is it, Jess. This is your escape hatch. I practically screamed into the phone. She's handing you the solution on a silver platter. In their tiny, pathetic world, a woman being divorced is the ultimate shame. They had no idea who they were messing with. I felt a ferocious surge of pride when Jess told me she walked to the door, opened it, and told them the house was hers. Period. That if Brian wanted a divorce, she was ready. She said Sharon was literally shaking with rage. You love to see it. You'll regret this, Linda had snarled. The only thing I regret is marrying into your family, Jess shot back. Now get out. I was yelling yes into the phone. When Sharon plopped on the couch, refusing to leave, I knew what to do next. Call the cops, Jess. Do it. Are you sure? She'd asked. 100%, I said. Tell her trespassing is a crime and ask her how she'll look in a mugshot. Jess said the color drained from Sharon's face. The old bully never thought my sweet friend had a spine of steel. She was wrong. I'm counting to 3, Jess said with 911 on the screen. I could hear the panic in Linda's voice as she told me about it. They stumbled out, spewing insults. My son must have been blind to marry a bitch like you. I laughed. He was blind to think he could play you, I said. The second that door slammed shut, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. She was safe. She was free. It was a messy, ugly battle, but she had won. We sat on the phone in silence for a moment, just listening to the quiet. A minute later, her phone buzzed. Brian. Of course. Let him yell, I said. Just listen to the poison and remember why you're doing this. She put him on speaker, and I heard it all. What the hell did you do to my mom? He screamed. Not, are you okay? But an accusation. Classic. Respect is earned, Brian, she said, her voice like ice. I pumped my fist. She laid out how his family of grifters showed up at 7:30 in the morning to scream at her, how he expected her to just roll over. She's my mother, he kept whining. I couldn't stand his fake sweet tone when he switched tactics. Jess, let's not fight. Too late, buddy. She told me how he tried to play the victim, exhausted after waiting for his family's heist to succeed. The nerve. Can we just talk? He'd pleaded. And Jess just leveled him. Talk about how to carve up my house for your family? He actually tried to correct her, calling it borrowing. I had to clap my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming at her phone. "Why are there so many lines?" he whined. "Did you ever see me as family?" I rolled my eyes so hard I think I saw my brain. "You're the one who didn't see me as family," she fired back. "Real families don't run property scams on each other." Preach, sister. When he had the gall to ask what she'd ever given them, I knew it was time. "Read him the list, Jess," I whispered. "Every single receipt." And she did. The $200 for his dad's hospital bills he never paid back. The $500 for Kevin's tutoring. The gold bracelet for his monster of a mother. The $200 seafood dinner they all enjoyed at her expense. She laid it all out, and with every word I could feel her getting stronger, shedding the weight of that toxic family. "What am I to you, Brian?" she asked, her voice cracking with fury and heartbreak. "An ATM? A fool with a free house?" I heard nothing but dead air on his end. He had no answer because she was right. He'd been caught. His voice came back, cold and dead. He knew he'd lost. "So you've made your choice," he said. And then came the final, pathetic ultimatum. This was the moment I had been waiting for since the day I met him. Choice 1, let his whole parasite family move in. Choice 2, divorce. But she had to compensate him for his emotional investment. I actually choked. Compensate him? For 3 months of mooching? The absolute delusion. Jess just laughed. A real, honest-to-God laugh. "Are you an idiot, Brian?" "That's my girl." She told him about the bank transfers, the texts, the proof. "We'll see who the judge sides with." He was so stunned. He never thought she'd fight back. "I'm giving you 1 day," she said, her voice pure power. "Then we're going to the courthouse." She hung up on him. On his threats, his pathetic texts about being disappointed. She didn't even read them. She was done. My phone rang again almost immediately. "Liv," she said, and her voice was clear, like a bell. "I need your cousin's number, the divorce lawyer, and a locksmith. I'm changing the locks." A grin split my face. "You finally woke up," I said, my voice thick with pride. "Damn right," she replied, and she was free. The phone rang at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. I saw Jess's name and my stomach clenched. She never called that late unless something was wrong. "Liv." Her voice was a choked whisper, and that was it. My blood went from 0 to boiling in a nanosecond. "I'm here." "What did he do? Tell me everything." Through her tears, she laid it all out. The ambush by his mother and sister, the measuring tape, Brian's spineless defense of their insane plan to move into her townhouse. I listened, my grip on my phone so tight my knuckles were white. The second she mentioned he threatened divorce to get his way, I saw red. "That absolute snake," I hissed. "Jess, listen to me," I said, my voice dropping into that calm, emergency mode tone we have. "This isn't a fight. This is an eviction notice. He showed you who he is. We believe him." I could hear her take a shuddering breath on the other end. "He weaponized divorce after 3 months? He's not a husband, he's a con artist. First thing tomorrow, you call a locksmith. Second, you pack a bag with every last thing that grubby loser owns and put it by the door. You are taking back your space." She was quiet for a second. Then I heard a small, watery, "Okay." That was my girl. The fighter was still in there. "And you're calling my cousin Mark," I ordered. "He's a shark of a divorce lawyer. I'm texting you his number right now. This isn't just a breakup, Jess. It's a rescue mission." We stayed on the phone while she found a 24-hour locksmith, her voice getting stronger with every decision she made. The next day, she texted me a picture of a brand new shiny deadbolt. The caption just said, "Done." I felt a wave of ferocious pride. That click of the lock wasn't just metal sliding into place. It was the sound of my best friend finding her spine again. Brian and his whole greedy clan were officially locked out of her life. She called me again later that afternoon, her voice buzzing with adrenaline. "You are not going to believe this. My parents just showed up." I grinned. "Of course they did. Your dad probably broke the sound barrier driving there." I could practically hear her mom fussing over her through the phone. "He saw Brian's suitcase by the door and his face went absolutely thunderous," she told me. "He just asked, 'Where is he?'" I swear I have never loved her dad more than in that moment. That's a father right there, not asking what happened, but who he needed to destroy. She told me how her mom was blaming herself and how her dad, bless his heart, just cut through the noise. He sat me down and said, "Tell me everything. Don't leave out a single detail." "Liv, I think he's ready to go to war for me." "He should be," I said. "We all are." I listened as she recounted telling them the whole sordid tale of the past 3 months. I pictured her dad's hands clenching, her mom shaking with rage. When she got to the part about the divorce threat, I heard a loud thud on her end. "Dad just slammed the table," she whispered. "Good. That table deserved it." "He's pacing, Liv. He's saying, 'My daughter, who I raised like a princess.' It's kind of intense." "It's kind of perfect," I corrected her. "That's exactly how he should be reacting. You are a princess, and they treated you like an ATM." The Collins family had no idea what they'd just unleashed. They thought they were messing with sweet, kind Jessica. They forgot she was raised by a lion and a lioness, and that her best friend keeps a list and holds a grudge like it's an Olympic sport. "He asked me if I wanted to stay married," Jess said, her voice firm. "I told him no. I told him Brian didn't marry me. He married my townhouse." A vicious smile spread across my face. "There's my girl. Tell me you used the word parasites." "I did," she said, and I actually fist-pumped in my kitchen. She told me her mom remembered Sharon's weird money questions from the beginning, and I just nodded, thinking, I knew it. "I told you, Jess. My creepometer is never wrong." I was so damn relieved she was finally seeing the walking, talking red flag for what he was. "Dad says the divorce is happening and we need a strategy," she continued. "I told him I'm meeting with your cousin Mark this afternoon. Dad's coming with me." "Perfect," I said. "Bring the thunder. Let Mark handle the paperwork. Let your dad handle the intimidation." Then her voice dropped. "Oh my God, Liv. The doorbell just rang." My heart stopped. "Don't you dare open it. Look through the peephole." I held my breath, hearing muffled sounds. This was it. The confrontation. "It's him," she breathed. "He brought his dad, and a really pathetic-looking fruit basket." I burst out laughing, pure manic relief. "A fruit basket? That's his opening move? Oh, this is going to be good. Your dad's face must be a work of art right now." "It's solid granite," she confirmed. "He told me to let them in." I imagined the scene. Her dad, a silent, immovable force on the couch, sizing up the 2 weasels who dared to hurt his daughter. Brian's stupid smile probably evaporated the second he saw him. Jess called me back the second they left, and I made her replay the entire conversation word for word. She painted the picture of George Collins, the father, trying to play the big, friendly patriarch, dropping into an armchair like he was already measuring it for his den. The audacity. My favorite part was Brian perched on the edge of the sofa he was trying to steal, asking, "What's going on?" with those big, fake, innocent eyes. And her mom just snapping, "My daughter is being taken advantage of." Queen. Absolute queen. And then, "What did you say?" I prompted, practically eating popcorn. "I asked him which part we'd settled," she said, and I could hear the smirk in her voice. "The part where his family wasn't moving in, or the part where he gets a payday for the divorce?" I actually howled. Savage. George trying to preach about a happy family was just the icing on the cake. I loved how Jess shut him down with the formal Mr. Collins, making him flinch. She had them on the ropes, and she knew it. He had the nerve to say Brian was just looking out for his family, she fumed, as if demanding my house was the only option. "Of course it was," I said. "It's the only option that required 0 effort and gave them maximum profit." "I looked him dead in the eye," she said, her voice dripping with the ice she must have used in that room. "And I asked him, is he concerned for you or is he just after my assets? Liv, you should have seen his face." Oh, I was seeing it in my mind's eye, and it was glorious. But the knockout punch, the moment that will go down in the Olivia and Jessica Hall of Fame, was her comeback about his house. I was like, oh, so your house is community property. My parents should get a piece of that, right? I was literally crying with laughter. Checkmate, you greedy old goat. The fake heart condition threat was a classic move. Pathetic. Brian jumping in to protect his dad after letting his mom and sister run wild over his wife was the kind of hypocrisy that deserved its own trophy. I just kept asking him, Jess said, why my house? Your condo has an elevator. It's closer to the hospital. Why mine? The silence on the other end was his confession. They had no answer because the only answer was greed. She laid it all out for them. The constant prying, the endless requests for money, the demand for her home. She asked them what else she was supposed to call it but gold digging. And that sputtering, finger-pointing rage from George? That's the sound of a scammer being caught. Then her dad stepped in. I pictured him rising to his full height, his voice like rumbling thunder, and just leveling that worm George with a look. Watch it. 2 words. That's all it took. The power. Liv, my dad asked him one question, she said, her voice full of awe. If my daughter didn't own this house, would you have let Brian marry her? The silence that followed was the sound of their entire scheme collapsing. Beautiful, beautiful silence. Brian's pathetic last-ditch, it doesn't have to be this way, was almost sad. No, dude, it really, really does have to be this way. You made your bed. Now you get to go lie in it, back in that tiny condo you were so desperate to escape. And his plea of feelings? I gagged. The only thing he felt was the impending loss of a free ride. I was so proud of Jess's mom for calling him out on it directly, asking him if he married her just for love. He couldn't even answer that without it sounding like a lie. Jess's final speech was a masterpiece. She didn't yell, she just surgically dismantled him, piece by piece. She reminded him of his spinelessness, his complicity, his greed. I could hear the finality in her voice even as she recounted it. It was truly over. You don't love me, she'd told him. You love what I can do for you. That was the kill shot. The absolute, undeniable truth. There was nothing he could say to that because they both knew it was true. When she told me she walked to the door, opened it, and told them to get out, I cheered so loud my dog started barking. She threatened to call the cops. She took back her power, her home, and her life in one glorious, fiery exit. I'm on my way over, I told her. I'm bringing champagne. We are celebrating your freedom. George shot Mr. Miller a look so toxic it could curdle milk. Fine, let them look down on us. Come on, Brian, we're leaving. Brian mumbled something, but his father wasn't having it. He yanked his son's arm, then sneered at my best friend. You'll live to regret this. Damaged goods. But Jess just gave him this perfect, serene smile. I think I'll be just fine, she said. But your son, a failed scam artist who's now divorced, I can't see the welcome wagon rolling out for him. The man's face went crimson. Brian had to physically drag his explosive father out the door. The phone rang and I knew. Her voice was wrecked, but underneath the tears was a chilling calm. Liv, it's over. I gripped the phone tighter. Tell me everything. I'm on my way. She didn't have to. Seeing the truth wasn't hell. It was the escape hatch. I told her what her dad did. You fight for every damn penny, Jess. That house is a fortress. Your fortress. I saw his game from day one. I knew he'd pull some pathetic stunt like suing for his bruised ego. She knew it too. We were ready. She told me how she couldn't even eat. I said, good. Let the anger fuel you. Your dad's right. We need 2 lists. Every dime you spent on his leeching family versus the scraps he threw your way. A $200 necklace. I scoffed. A cheap purse. Then she listed what she'd bought. A watch for that snake, Brian. A $1,200 bracelet for his monster-in-law. $400 in supplements for his dad. The tablet for his nephew. The cash for his dad's hospital bill. $500 for his sister's schooling. Her voice broke with each number. It wasn't about the money, it was the sheer, calculated imbalance of it all. My blood boiled. "You have the Venmo records, right?" She did. "And the texts? Where he begs for the money?" "Yes." I told her that was our ammunition. "Give my cousin Mark everything. If Brian doesn't bring up money, we let it lie. But if he does," I promised her, "we'll bury him in receipts." The next time I saw her, she looked like a warrior. I grabbed her hand. "Jess, you've got this." She met my eyes, the fire back. "I know." All that fake love had finally turned to ash. Some men are just walking fires meant to burn everything down. I'd set up the meeting with my cousin, Mark Chen. He's a shark in a suit. I told Jess to show him every text, every transfer, the whole disgusting saga. Mark called me later. "Liv, it's clean. The house is hers. Premarital, untouchable. Brian Collins has zero claim." A wave of relief washed over me. Step 1. Done. The parasite couldn't take her home. But the money for his dad? A gift, legally. The funds for his sister? A maybe. Mark said the rest was a wash. I wanted to scream. It wasn't a gift. It was an investment in a scam she didn't know she was part of. It felt like a punch, knowing he'd get away with most of it. It was never about the cash. It was the trust he'd monetized. Mark confirmed Brian couldn't claim a thing from her, which was a small, cold comfort. What if he sues for his hurt feelings? I'd asked Mark, dripping with sarcasm. He actually laughed. "Let him try. That's for actual trauma, not for getting dumped when your scam falls apart." The court would toss a claim like that right out, but Mark warned me that if Brian refused to sign, it could drag out. "He'll be a little worm about it," I told Jess later. "He'll try to stall." But she was done playing. "I want this over," she told me, her voice pure steel. "Fast." The next step was negotiation, a formal letter from Mark's firm that was basically a warning shot. I told her it was the perfect move. "Let him get that letter at work. Let's see how brave he is then." Mark also advised her to stay with her parents for safety. I agreed. That whole family felt unstable and I was worried. But Jess refused. "No," she told me, her voice firm. "This is my house. I'm not running." She wasn't wrong. Why should she be the one displaced? I hated it, but I admired her for it. Mark told her to lock the doors and call 911 at the first sign of trouble. The letter went out that day. We knew what was coming next. He'd beg, he'd bargain, or he'd get vicious. I told her to be ready for all three. She just said, "I am." I'd never been prouder. She called me from the car telling me her dad had her back. "I know he does, Jess," I said, "but you have me too. We're your front line." That's what we are. Always. Then, the texts started. She read them to me over the phone, a pathetic, whiny wall of words. It was all, "I was wrong, and my family is crazy, and give me another chance." I just said, "Block him." "I love you," he wrote. Love? My God, the audacity. I told her, "Love doesn't try to steal your house, Jess. Love doesn't let anyone scream at you. That's not love, it's an infection." As she pulled up to her place, she gasped. He's here. Brian, standing there with a bouquet of roses so big it looked like a cry for help. "Stay on the phone with me," I said, my voice low. "Don't hang up." "I've got this," she whispered and got out of the car. I listened, my heart pounding, as he rushed over with those cliché flowers, his shadow long and fake in the dying light. "Do you like them?" he asked. I heard her say no and push them back at him. "Flowers won't fix this." 3 months ago, she would have cried. Now she was just done. He grabbed for her hand and I heard her pull away. Then came the pre-rehearsed apology. "I shouldn't have assumed my family could move in," he recited. It was pathetic. "Is that it?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. I could hear him stammering, trying to remember his lines. She pushed him. "When you demanded money, when you said it was no big deal, what part was the lie, Brian?" I heard the silence as his little act crumbled. He tried to get her upstairs. "This is my home," she said, cutting him clean. "It's not yours anymore. I already changed the locks. Your things are at the front desk." I swear I almost cheered. Then he had the nerve to ask if she had any feelings for him. I heard her laugh, a sharp, perfect sound of disbelief. She threw every ugly truth back in his face. "Angry words are honest words," she said, her voice ice. "You had your chance, and you chose to bully me. Now that it didn't work, you're trying this. You think I'm an idiot?" she said, and I could just picture his face. He started listing his good deeds, making breakfast, a ride in the rain. Every word was a desperate, transparent lie. She laid it out for him, each kindness attached to its real cost. Breakfast cost her his sister's tuition. The ride in the rain cost her his dad's medicine. I listened as she dismantled him, piece by piece. "Brian, your kindness is just a transaction, and I'm done paying." I heard the silence on the other end. That was it, the kill shot. Every warm gesture was just a cold, hard calculation. "A letter from my lawyer is already on its way," she told him, her voice unshakable. "Let's make this clean. We walk away and we become strangers." This was the end game I had helped her plan. "A lawyer?" I heard the panic crack his voice. "You pushed me here," she told him. The boy she thought she loved was gone. All that was left was a cornered little thief. Then she delivered the final blow. "Drag this out, and everyone at your job will know you got dumped for trying to steal from your wife." It was brutal. It was perfect. "Fine," he whispered. He backed away, let out a bizarre laugh, and left his stupid roses on the bench. I stayed on the line until she was safely inside. The locks clicked shut. We both just breathed. It was over. She was free. I always knew something was off about Brian Collins, but a frantic call from our building manager sent a chill right down my spine. "Olivia, there's a disturbance at Jessica's apartment." "What kind of disturbance?" I demanded, already grabbing my keys. "His family is outside her door, screaming." I saw red. "I'm on my way. Call security, call the cops, call everyone." I hung up and immediately dialed Jess. No answer. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was exactly the kind of unhinged behavior I expected from those people. That predator and his pack of wolves. I remembered the look in Brian's eyes when he thought no one was watching Jess, like she was a prize he'd won, not a person he loved. It was the same look his mother had when she sized up Jess's family heirlooms. 2 days of silence from him, and I knew a storm was brewing. This was it. When Jess finally called back, her voice was shaking. "They were here, Liv, banging on the door. Sharon and his Aunt Linda, a couple others, screaming at me." I could practically hear her heart pounding through the phone. "That vile woman called me a scheming witch. They were trying to break the door down, yelling for me to open up," she whispered. I gripped my own phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "Don't you dare open that door, Jess. Don't you move. Are the police there yet?" One of them had apparently screamed about seeing the tramp hurting her precious nephew. Unbelievable. "The manager called them," she said, her voice trembling. I could hear her stumbling away from the door. "He called me first, then you. I told him to get the cops here immediately." "Good," I said, my own voice tight with fury. "Stay on the phone with me." I heard her yell through the door that the cops were coming. The response wasn't fear, it was more screaming. "They called me a thief. Said I stole his home, a con artist," she relayed, her breath catching. "Liv, they're completely insane." "I know, honey. We always knew." I could practically feel her pressed against the door, trying to hold them back with sheer will. "Stay calm, Jess. Just breathe. Let the professionals handle this." I heard the elevator ding through her phone, and then a man's voice, firm and loud. Security had arrived. Thank God. She told me how the guards shut them down, even as Sharon screeched about Jess being her daughter-in-law. I snorted. Some family. The threat of the police finally seemed to work. I listened as Jess recounted the whole ugly scene, my blood boiling with every word. "Sharon told me it wasn't over," Jess finished, her voice flat. "She said I couldn't hide forever." I heard her sink to the floor. The shaking in her hands wasn't fear anymore. It was pure, unadulterated rage. "That coward," I spat. "He sent his mother to do his dirty work." And right on cue, her phone buzzed with another call. It was him. She put him on speaker for me. Do you get it now, Jessica? Brian's slimy voice oozed through the phone. He actually sounded pleased with himself. My mom, my aunts, they get emotional. I can't control them. We should talk. Talk about what? Jess asked, her voice dangerously calm. I'll sign the divorce papers, he said, as if doing her a favor. But you have to compensate me for my emotional investment, my pain and suffering. $50,000. Sounds fair, doesn't it? Jess and I were both stunned into silence. Then she laughed. You are certifiably insane, Brian, she said. You don't have to pay, he cooed. But then I don't sign, and my family will probably stop by again tomorrow, the next day. They didn't actually break anything, so the cops can't do much. I held my breath, listening to his blatant threats. The police will talk to them. They'll leave, and then they'll be back, he continued, enjoying himself. You have a career, Jess. Your parents have reputations. I wanted to scream. You are the most shameless person I have ever met, Jess seethed. It's not shameless to ask for a little help from my wife. So you admit we're still married, he chuckled. $50,000. You have 24 hours. His voice dropped, turning sinister. Or I can't promise what my mom and aunts will do next. You know how it is. I heard every word, a witness to his vile extortion. Older women get so worked up. Imagine the scene if one of them had a heart attack on your doorstep. Think of the gossip. He hung up. I was speechless. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a calculated shakedown by a sociopath. It was pure, unadulterated evil. The man she had promised her life to was a monster. $50,000. I broke the silence. Jess, are you there? Are you okay? My own voice was shaking with rage now. That absolute son of a... I'm fine, Liv, she said, her voice hollow. Security handled it, she repeated numbly. He wants 50 grand. I exploded. $50,000 over my dead body. Jess, listen to me. My cousin is on this. We are going to bury him. The lawyer's letter already went out, she reminded me. He'll get it today. Clearly a letter isn't enough for this lowlife. We need to go for the jugular, I said, already pacing my apartment. Okay, new plan. My cousin files a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning. This is extortion. 50 grand is a felony. He called it compensation, she said, the frustration thick in her voice. I was so furious I didn't even think to record it. From now on, you record every single interaction, I ordered. What about the hallway camera? I have one, but the audio is probably useless. Video is a start. My cousin's already on the harassment suit. He thinks he can intimidate us into paying him to go away. After we hung up, she called her dad. She told me later he listened to the whole horror story in complete silence. His only response, Jessica, pack a bag. Come home. Now. I will handle the house. She tried to argue, but he cut her off. This isn't running, her dad told her, his voice like iron. It's a strategic retreat. You're a target when you're alone. If you're with us, they lose all their power. I have a plan for the townhouse. He told her to pack up every important document she owned. The fight was just beginning. As she was packing, throwing 3 months of a lie into boxes, the doorbell rang. My heart leaped into my throat when she told me, but it was just the building manager with security. They were horrified about what happened. I was relieved to hear they were beefing up security, adding another camera and locking down access to her floor. The manager apologized profusely. A little late, but better than nothing. They promised to call the police the second any of them showed their faces again. The police came by, Jess told me he'd said. They told me to call 911 for disorderly conduct if they come back, and that I could get a protective order. A protective order. The words themselves felt like a violation. She shouldn't need protection from the man she married. An hour later, her dad was there. She told me she took one last look at the home she'd loved, a place that was now tainted, and locked the door behind her. On the highway, her dad dropped the bombshell. We're selling the townhouse, Jess. I almost dropped my phone when she told me. Selling it? she'd asked, completely stunned. Yes, her dad said, calm as anything. That house is your weakness. They're acting this way because they know you love it. If we take it off the table, what leverage do they have? I wanted to cheer. Her dad was a genius. Jess had started to protest, saying it was a gift. A house is just a thing, Jessica. You matter, he told her. We bought it for your security. Right now, it's a liability. What good is a top school district if you're not safe inside your own home? He was 100% right. Your peace of mind is worth more than any piece of property, he'd said, his voice full of that fierce, quiet love I'd always admired. Money can be remade. Houses can be bought. They're arrogant because they think you'd never dream of letting that place go. They think you're not willing to scorch the earth, he'd said. We're about to show them just how wrong they are. When Jess told me that part, I actually cried. That's family. That's a father. He told her to rest, but she refused. No, Dad, I'll do it, she told him, her voice turning to steel. It's my house, my disaster, my fight. She was listing it, not out of fear, but out of strength. It was tainted, and she was cutting it out like the cancer it had become. They are not getting one single penny from us, she'd declared. Her dad just smiled, full of pride. That's my girl. That's my best friend. As she told me the story, I could picture her in that car, the sunset blazing behind her, transforming from a victim into a warrior. I could almost hear her thinking it. You wanted a war, Brian? Fine. Let's go to war. When she got to her parents' house, her mom had dinner waiting. Her mom, a rock, just hugged her and told her to eat. My heart ached for all of them. She said they didn't even talk about Brian or his disgusting family over dinner. Her dad told stupid jokes. Her mom shared old stories. They were creating a tiny pocket of peace in the middle of a hurricane. After dinner, she and her dad sat down to plan their counterattack, and I was waiting by the phone, ready for my orders. The phone call I'd been dreading for 3 months finally came. It wasn't the sobbing that got me. It was the silence that followed. Liv, Jess finally whispered, her voice hollowed out. He wants $50,000. That's when the ice in my veins turned to fire. We're selling the house, she said, her voice suddenly like flint. I don't care about the price. I just want him gone. Good, I told her, my own voice tight with rage. Liquidate everything. He can't take what isn't there. Jess took a shaky breath. Dad asked if we should keep it quiet, but Brian's a snake, Liv. He'll be watching the listings. I could practically hear her chin lift over the phone. I'm not letting that parasite find out from some website, she declared, and I grinned, a nasty, satisfying smile. I'm calling him right now. I'm going to let that smug monster know he backed the wrong woman. I felt a surge of pride so fierce it almost hurt. My girl was back. The next morning, she texted me a picture of a business card, Mr. Wong. He says I can get $1.5 million, the text read. Premium location, he called it. I immediately replied, tell him you want a fast, all-cash sale, no messing around. Jess was already one step ahead of me. Told him $1.3 million close in a month, her next message said. I laughed out loud. She was playing this perfectly. When she told me the agent asked why she was in such a rush, she just texted, told him personal reasons. He shut up. That's my Jessica, a shark in Chanel. After the agent, she went to the bank. She called me from the parking lot. Liv, I'm meeting with Sarah. Everything's going into a CD, untouchable. I could hear the determination in her voice, a sound I hadn't heard in months. Lock it down, Jess, I said. Leave him nothing. She told me how the financial advisor, Sarah, looked at her like she was crazy. She was so worried, Jess recounted. Are you sure? I just told her, 1 year, no withdrawals. And when the house sells, that goes in a CD too. Every word was another bar on Brian's cage. Then came the masterstroke. The car. That gorgeous red Audi A4 her parents gave her. I remember Brian telling her it was too much, that he should drive it. The nerve. He wasn't being considerate. He was just staking his claim, like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Just traded it in, her text message read, followed by a picture of a check. $20,000. He said it was pristine. I texted back a string of fire emojis. He thought that car was his, I typed. I hope he sees it on the road with someone else behind the wheel. She walked out of that dealership with nothing but a check and a lighter soul. It was brilliant. Brian wanted the money, locked away. Wanted the car, gone. Wanted the house, for sale. The beautiful trap was set, and all the bait was gone. She told me later she handed the check to her mom, whose eyes were already puffy from crying for her daughter. "It's just stuff, Mom," Jess had told her, and hearing her recount it made my own eyes burn. The Collins family doesn't get a single dime of it. I felt a swell of pure, unadulterated pride. "His whole family is a pack of vultures," I told her over the phone that night. "He'll check your accounts, you know." Her voice was calm, almost chilly. "I know. Let him look. The deeper he digs, the more he'll realize there's nothing left." And right on schedule, the snake called. Jess texted me, "He's calling," recording it. My heart hammered in my chest. A few minutes later, the audio file landed in my inbox. I pressed play, my knuckles white. His voice was poison wrapped in silk. "Selling the house, Jessica, playing hardball." Then I heard my best friend's voice, cool and clear as a bell. My house, my car, my decision. And that's when he finally broke, screaming about marital assets. I actually laughed. "Marital assets?" Jess echoed my thoughts. "Brian, the house was mine long before I made the mistake of marrying you." I listened, mesmerized, as she calmly dismantled his entire fantasy, piece by piece. The car, paid in full, the savings, all premarital. "It's my separate property," she said, letting the words hang in the air. Then came the kill shot. "But your condo, you've been paying that mortgage from your salary, haven't you?" I had to pause the recording. "Oh my God," I whispered to my empty apartment. She was going after his assets. The silence on the line was deafening before he finally choked out, "You're bluffing." It was the sound of a predator realizing he was prey. "It's not about the amount, it's the principle," she said, and I wanted to stand up and applaud. She listed everything she'd spent on his greedy family down to the last $700. "You want out? Pay me back first, then we'll talk about your condo." Hearing him threaten her made my blood boil, but Jess's voice rose to meet his, full of righteous fury. Who demanded $50,000? Who sent his mother and sister to my home? Who is the real monster here, Brian? All that was left was the sound of his pathetic, ragged breathing. She delivered the final blow with chilling precision. "You are getting nothing. The Jessica you thought you could drain dry is broke. Agree to a clean divorce or I will see you in court." I could feel his cowardice through the phone's speaker. He hung up. She knew he would. 30 minutes later, he called back. She sent me the recording of that one, too. The fake apology tour had begun. He couldn't take the heat, and now he was trying to crawl back. I texted her one word, pathetic. His voice was all syrupy and fake. "Jess, I messed up. I'm so sorry. Give me another chance." I almost gagged listening to it. He even offered to stop talking to his own family, the very people who had enabled his disgusting behavior. But Jess just cut him off. "Save it, Brian." When he whined, "Why not?" She laughed, a genuine, sharp sound of disbelief. "Your sincerity is tied to my bank account. Now that it's empty, what's left?" She laid the trap perfectly. "If I told you I'd just inherited millions, you'd be on your knees, wouldn't you?" Then she hung up and immediately called me. "Liv," she said, her voice buzzing with adrenaline. "I need you." I didn't hesitate. "Name it." That's when she laid out the most beautiful, devious, utterly perfect plan I had ever heard. "I need you to start a rumor," she said slowly, deliberately. "Tell everyone I made a disastrous investment. Tell them I lost everything, that I'm drowning in debt and had to sell my house and car just to stay afloat." I was speechless for a second, and then I just started howling with laughter. It was evil. It was genius. "He only saw you as a piggy bank," I said, catching my breath. So you're not just showing him it's empty. You're showing him it's overdrawn by $500,000. Jess, you're a legend. Leave it to me, I told her, my mind already spinning. By tomorrow, the right people will hear that you're bankrupt. She corrected me. Just the people who'll get the word back to him. I grinned. Even better. But what if he starts trashing your name? Let him, she said, and her voice was so free. A guy who kicks his wife when she's down and still tries to get money from her? Who do you think people will believe? She was right. She was a million steps ahead. This is your comeback, girl, I said, full of awe. I'm on it. The next text I got from her was a screenshot from her agent, an all-cash offer for $1.35 million. While the world was about to think she was destitute, she was closing a 7-figure deal. I sent back a champagne bottle emoji. I want to meet them, she texted. Tomorrow. I went to work immediately. I made one call to the biggest gossip I know, and I spun a tale of woe so convincing I almost believed it myself. Within 2 days, as Jess was arranging to sell her house for a fortune, our social circle was buzzing with the tragedy of her financial ruin. The first vulture to call was his sister, Linda. Jess forwarded me the voicemail. Linda's voice was dripping with fake sympathy and real satisfaction. Jessica, I heard about your little financial problem. Tsk. I always said you were too flashy with your money. Jess called me right after, her voice deadpan. She asked why I didn't talk to her brother before making an investment that big. We both just burst out laughing. They were so predictable, so greedy, and they had walked right into our trap. When Jessica told me what that witch Linda had said, I saw red. I mean, pure, shimmering rage. She wants $5,000? I practically screamed into the phone. Jess was quiet on the other end, and I knew that meant she was defeated. Jess, listen to me. This isn't about the money. This is a shakedown, plain and simple. It's what they've been doing from the start. They want $10,000 now, she whispered, her voice cracking. For his trouble. I almost choked. His trouble? I remember the first time I met Brian's mother, Sharon. We were at dinner, and she spent the whole night asking about Jessica's family, their business, their assets. It felt less like a conversation and more like an audit. I saw the calculating glint in Brian's eye that night and knew. I knew he was a parasite. 10 grand? For what? For sucking the life out of you for 3 months? I was pacing my apartment, furious on her behalf. Jess, please tell me you didn't agree. Linda had told her it was a steal for her freedom. A steal. The audacity of these people, trying to sell my best friend her own life back after they'd tried to ruin it. And then came the threats. Linda had sneered at her, reminded her she was back at her parents' place, that they were old. The absolute nerve bringing her family into it. That's when my anger cooled into something hard and sharp. Okay, I said, my voice low. That's it. We're done playing defense. It's time to fight back. He won't even talk to me, Liv, she said, her voice small. Linda said he's disgusted by me. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Good. Let him be disgusted. It means he's scared. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell his little messenger that you don't have 10 cents and you'll be at the courthouse at 2 p.m. tomorrow. End of story. And if he doesn't show, she asked, then he gets sued, I said, a predatory grin spreading across my face. And we remind him about that condo, his precious bachelor pad. Tell him that in a contested divorce, a judge is going to want to see where every single dollar went, including the mortgage payments you two made together. There was a pause. But he bought it before we got married, she said. Doesn't matter, I insisted. You used joint money to pay that mortgage for 3 months. It's a community asset now, honey. We'll claw back every penny. You even mentioned the $700 you dropped on his family's tacky Christmas gifts. Let him know you're coming for it all. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. When she called Linda back, I was on the line, muted, listening. I heard the panic in Linda's voice as Jessica laid it all out, calm and cold as ice. When Linda stammered and hung up, Jess let out a breath she'd been holding for months. A real victory. They thought they had her cornered, but they had no idea who they were messing with. The next day, my phone was buzzing nonstop with texts from the courthouse. 2 p.m. came and went. No Brian. "He's a no-show," she typed. "Of course he is," I texted back. "He's a coward. Hold your ground." Her dad was with her, which was the only thing keeping me from driving down there myself. Then at 2:30, she called me. "He wants me to meet him at my parents' neighborhood," she said, and my blood ran cold. "No, absolutely not, Jess. It's a trap. You stay right where you are. He's trying to get you on his turf. Don't you dare move from that courthouse." He was trying to get the $10,000 back on the table. The desperation was rolling off him in waves. She told him no, just like we planned. She was about to hang up, and I was silently cheering her on, telling her to end it. She had all the power. He had nothing. But then his voice changed, and she told me later that everything shifted in that single moment. "He's at the police station," she told me on the phone a minute later, her voice a weird mix of stunned and numb. My heart stopped. "What? Why?" Then she explained. His mother and sister were in custody. In custody. My first thought was a savage surge of satisfaction. My second was for Jess. "He's blaming you, isn't he?" I asked. "Of course he is," she breathed. They'd gone to her parents' home. They had actually gone there, trying to intimidate them, and had pushed a security guard. They'd assaulted someone. And Brian, the spineless worm, was begging Jessica to come and clean up their mess, to call it a family thing. I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. "Don't you dare, Jess," I said, my voice fierce. "You are not responsible for those monsters. They harassed your family. They attacked someone. This is not your problem to fix." He'd actually asked her if she would be responsible if his mother got arrested. The sheer, unmitigated gall. He thinks I should tell the police they have a free pass to attack people because they're family, she said, and a laugh, brittle and sharp, escaped her. "Liv, what do I do?" "You call Mark," I said instantly. "You call your lawyer, and you press charges for everything you possibly can. This is it. This is your leverage to end this nightmare for good." She asked if mediation was an option. "Mediation?" I nearly shouted. "Jess, they showed up at your parents' house looking for a fight. There is nothing to mediate. You already called the cops on them once. This is the end of the line." He called her heartless. I swear I could feel my blood pressure skyrocket just hearing it. "You tell him they made you this way," I told her. "Then you hang up and you call Mark Chen right now." And she did. I've never been prouder of her in my entire life. She called me back after talking to Mark. "He says I can press charges," she said, sounding stronger. "Assault, disorderly conduct. He said they could see jail time." "Good," I said. "They earned it. Go down there with your dad, Jess. Do not back down. Do not let them manipulate you." She promised she wouldn't. The thought of her dad being there, this quiet, solid man who adored his daughter, was a massive relief. He wouldn't let them get to her. He would be her rock. They were on their way, and all I could do was wait by the phone, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and hope. The scene at the station was apparently even more pathetic than I could have imagined. Brian saw her and immediately tried to play the victim, grabbing her arm, begging her to call it a misunderstanding. I felt a flash of white-hot anger when she told me he'd touched her. She told me she pulled her arm away and faced him down. "Is assaulting someone a little argument to you, Brian?" God, I loved her in that moment. He tried to downplay it, of course, but her dad stepped up, a wall of quiet fury, and shut him down completely. Her dad walked right past Brian without a single glance. That probably hurt more than any shouting match would have. Inside, the two she-devils were sitting with the cops, and the poor guard they'd pushed was nursing his arm. Jessica walked right up to an officer and introduced herself. "I'm Jessica Miller. Sharon and Linda Collins were harassing my family." She drew the line in the sand, clear and bright. "Sharon is my former mother-in-law. Linda is my former sister-in-law." Former. The word was a weapon. "We are divorcing," she declared. I am asking you to handle this by the book. I will not mediate." That's when Sharon apparently erupted like a volcano, calling her a viper. Theatrics, right on cue. An officer had to physically push the old hag back into her chair. Then Linda started with the waterworks, crying about how Jessica had taken her brother's money and was now trying to jail her sainted mother. The performance was so predictable it was almost boring, but it was clear the cops weren't buying it. The officer asked Jessica one more time if she was sure. She told me she looked him right in the eye. "I'm certain. This is the second time they've harassed me. Last time it was at my home. This time they came to my parents' home and it turned violent. It has to stop." Sharon, of course, lied through her teeth, claiming the guard just fell. But the guard spoke up, God bless him, and mentioned the security cameras. He wanted to go to a hospital, check and mate. The officer laid out the reality for the Collins women: detention. The word hung in the air. If the medical report showed an injury, they were facing time. Sharon's face went white. Linda immediately started begging for forgiveness. Oh, now they were sorry. Now that there were actual consequences. But Jessica held firm. She looked right at them and said, "I warned you last time. I told you if you came back, I'd call the police. You went to my parents' home and you attacked someone." Mic drop. She even turned to Linda. "You have a kid. If someone did this to you, would you just forgive them?" That shut her up real fast. Then Sharon started her final performance, the wailing martyr, screaming about how she didn't want to live. She even lunged at a wall, but the cops stopped her. It changed nothing. The officer stated plainly that they were waiting for the medical report. 5 to 10 days in detention for minor injuries. The reality finally hit them like a truck. And that's when Brian made his final desperate move. He ran in and dropped to his knees right in front of Jessica, actually got on his knees. The sheer groveling desperation was everything. He begged her to forgive them, offering to apologize for everything. He started banging his head on the floor, on the filthy police station floor. Jessica just stepped back and asked him the coldest, most perfect question. "Are you on your knees for them, or because you're actually sorry?" He swore he was sorry, his forehead turning red, and then came the cascade of promises. He'd sign the divorce papers. He didn't want a cent, nothing, just get his mommy out of trouble. And Jessica, my brilliant, badass best friend, just said, "Good." She pulled out the divorce agreement we'd prepared and held it out. "Sign this, then I'll think about it." Game over. The phone call came just after 10. Jessica's voice was a raw, ragged thing. "He signed it, Liv. He didn't even read it." I gripped my phone tighter. "Tell me everything." She told me how she'd stood in front of that cop, laid out a letter of forgiveness, and then, like an absolute queen, named her terms. "First," she'd said, her voice shaking but strong, "they sign a guarantee they will never, ever come near me or my family again. If they do, I go nuclear with lawyers," she'd told them. My girl. And second, they're paying for everything. The guard's hospital bills, his missed work, and for the hell they put him through. I could almost hear the desperate scrambling from Brian's mom and sister. Of course, we'll pay," they'd squeaked. "Good," Jess told the officer, her voice pure ice. She agreed to mediate, but she made damn sure the incident went on their permanent record, a formal warning. "Next time," she told them, "I don't call you, I call my lawyer." The mediation wrapped. They signed the paper and forked over a measly $200 to the guard before getting chewed out by the cops. $200. The fury I felt was a physical thing. I listened as she told me how she stopped Brian before he could slither away. He wouldn't even look at her. "What now?" he'd mumbled. This was the part we had rehearsed over the phone for hours the night before. "We signed the agreement," she said, cool as anything, "but we still have to file. Tomorrow, 9 in the morning, courthouse. Bring your life documents. Don't be late," she'd warned him, "or this little agreement becomes a lawsuit you can't afford." I could picture him, the color draining from his face. "I'll be there," he muttered. "Good," she'd said, and turned her back on him. But then he called her name, and she told me she paused just for a second. His voice was trembling. Are you really in that much debt? This was it. The masterstroke. The beautiful, perfect lie I had helped her build. I heard her take a shaky breath over the phone as she relived it. Yes, she'd told him, her voice a frozen shard, a crushing amount, more than I could ever dig out from under. Brian was just stunned. What will you do? He'd whispered, the real question being, what about me? She let a sharp little smile show. That's my problem now, and you're not. After tomorrow, we're strangers, she'd finished. Whether I sink or swim has nothing to do with you, and frankly, I don't give a damn what happens to you. Then she took her father's arm and walked out of that police station, leaving him and his parasitic family in the dust. I was practically screaming with pride into my phone. My dad asked me in the car if I was bluffing about the debt, she said, and I finally heard a real laugh bubble up. I told him the only way to get rid of a leech is to make them think the host is dying. Her dad just looked at her, this huge, proud smile spreading across his face. That's my girl, he'd said. Damn right she is. My phone was glued to my hand the next morning. At 9:32, a text popped up. Done, it's over. Brian was there, looking like a wreck. They didn't speak. They just signed the papers that officially ended the nightmare. Less than 30 minutes to erase 3 months of hell. As she was leaving, he actually had the nerve to say, Jessica, I'm sorry. She told me she froze. For what? She asked, not even turning around. For everything, he'd stammered. I know it's too late, but I really did love you. That's when she called me, absolutely vibrating with rage. He said he loved me, Liv. The nerve of that manipulative monster, to use that word. I listened to her vent, letting the poison out. Don't you dare say you loved me, she'd spat at him. You tainted the word. He went pale. She just told him to take care of himself and walked away for good. When my phone buzzed with her call, my first words were, forget him. He's nothing. He's a bad memory. Let's talk about you. Babe, tell me it's done. Are you a free woman? I demanded. I am, she breathed, and the relief in her voice was overwhelming. Oh, thank God. Congratulations. Welcome back to your actual life. We are celebrating tonight, usual place. My treat. No arguments. Deal, she said. After we hung up, I leaned back in my chair, smiling. The witch was dead. She told me her dad was waiting for her outside the courthouse, waving from his car. She got in and just said, Dad, I'm starving. He promised her a feast at home, cooked by her mom. That's what a real family does. They don't see you as an investment. They just want to feed you when you're hungry. 3 months of a parasitic marriage. Finally over. A new day was dawning. I told her to turn off her phone and just sleep. She took my advice, hibernating for almost 2 solid days. Just rest. No stress. No fighting. Her mom would peek in on her, then quietly shut the door. When she finally texted me that she was awake, she said she felt like she'd shed 100 pounds of dead weight, and all of it was named Brian Collins. Monday morning, she sent me a selfie. She was in a killer power suit, makeup flawless, with a slash of bold red lipstick. Armor. Going back to the office, the text read. Her mom had peeked out of the kitchen, surprised. My leave is over, Jess had simply said, looking like the boss she's always been. Her dad offered a ride, but she refused. No, I've got it, she said, grabbing the keys to the used Toyota she'd bought herself after selling the Audi Brian had picked out. It wasn't flashy, but it was 100% hers. No strings attached. Her mom called after her, hesitating. About Brian? Mom, it's over, Jess said, her voice firm. He's not a part of my life, she'd insisted. Her mom got the message. My daughter is amazing. You'll find someone so much better. Jess just rolled her eyes, told me she wasn't even thinking about that, chugged some milk and headed out the door to reclaim her life. She called me on her drive, hands-free of course, said it was surreal driving the same route to work. 3 months ago, she was on this road, anxious about what to make for that loser's dinner. Now she was in a different car, gloriously alone, and on her way to kick ass at her job. The second she walked into the office, her colleague Amy rushed over. "Jess, you're back," she'd said, then dropped her voice to a whisper. "Are you okay?" The gossip mill had clearly been working overtime. "I'm great," Jess said, and she told me her smile felt real for the first time in months. "Thank God," Amy said. "Listen, the Henderson project is a mess. He's been asking for you nonstop, said he was about to come drag you back himself. You know how he is. He's going to be so happy to see you." And just like that, she was back in her element, where she was valued for her brain, not her bank account. She said walking through the main office was like parting the Red Sea. Everyone stared. Pity, curiosity, even a little smugness from the jealous ones. She just smiled, nodded, and kept walking. Then her boss, Mr. Henderson, boomed her name. "Jess, you're finally back!" He was a good guy, all smiles. "Been waiting for you," he said, patting her shoulder. "Everything at home sorted out?" "All settled," she said. "Excellent. My office. Now, this project's dying without you." She spent the whole morning buried in work. She told me later, and the divorce completely faded into the background. Work was her anchor. At lunch, Amy cornered her again. "Seriously, are you okay?" she whispered. "I'm really okay," Jess insisted. "Do I look not okay?" Amy hesitated. "No, it's just, there are rumors." Jess braced herself. "What rumors?" "That your in-laws took everything. The house, the car. That you're broke," Amy whispered. Jess had to laugh when she told me. The speed of gossip is truly incredible. "Amy, do I look broke?" she'd asked. She told me she set her fork down and just owned it. "It's fine. Let them talk. It's my life. What they say means nothing." Amy's eyes went wide. "Wow, Jess, you're so cool." "Cool? No, just free." That afternoon, she forwarded me a text from her lawyer, Mark. The purchase agreement for the condo was ready. Another chain from that sham marriage about to be shattered. The buyer wanted to sign that week. She was getting her money out, clean and clear. "Tomorrow afternoon works," she texted Mark back. He confirmed and then added, "P.S. Any further issues with Mr. Collins?" "No, I haven't. Thanks for asking," she replied. "Good." I told her to call me the second he tried anything. Just as she put her phone down, it rang. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. A man's voice, vaguely familiar. "Is this Jessica Miller?" "This is she." "It's Frank Zhang, your Aunt Susan's friend." Oh God, not this guy. The amateur matchmaker her aunt kept pushing on her. "Oh, Mr. Zhang, hello," she said, her voice dripping with false pleasantry when she recounted it to me. "Jessica," I heard. "Don't you worry. Out with the old, in with the new," he boomed. My blood boiled just hearing about it. "I've got a great guy for you. 36, manager, divorced, no kids, house, car. When are you free?" Jess tried to shut him down politely. "Mr. Zhang, I'm not looking right now." He wasn't having it. "Nonsense. A divorced woman has to move fast before you get old and your value drops," he actually said. The sheer misogyny. "This guy's a catch. How about tomorrow?" Before she could protest, he'd booked it. "Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Shangri-La. He'll add you on WeChat. It's settled." Then he hung up. She texted me a screenshot of the call log with a string of vomiting emojis. This was her new label in some people's eyes. Damaged goods on a clearance sale. I told her to stand him up. Later, driving home, she saw the friend request. His profile picture was a sad-looking mountain. His whole profile was private. She ignored it. Then, while waiting at a red light, she saw it. A new post from Brian. No caption. Just a picture of him at a fancy restaurant with an empty chair across from him. A steak, a bottle of wine, a bouquet of flowers. I saw it too. The performance was pathetic. The only thing missing from that table was his meal ticket. I saw Brian's post and my blood went cold. Dinner for one can still have class. The picture of a single steak and a glass of red wine was so pathetic, so calculated, I nearly threw my phone. The comments were exactly what he wanted. a flood of clueless women asking, "Brian, what happened?" and "Where's Jessica?" I knew exactly what happened. My best friend finally woke up. His reply to every comment was the same limp excuse. "It's nothing, just needed a quiet night." A quiet night. Right. I remember the first night I met him. The look in his eyes wasn't love. It was appraisal. He was sizing Jess up. Then his mother, Sharon, spent the entire dinner asking about the Miller family business. Red flags don't get bigger than that. That night, Jess called me, her voice wrecked. "Liv, I'm at my mom's." I could hear the tears. He and his mom, they wanted me to sell my dad's condo to fund his startup. I wasn't even surprised. "They're leeches, Jess. I told you from the start. You get out of there, you hear me? You come home." "My mom already knows," she sniffled. "She just held me." That was the difference between the Millers and the Collinses. Real family versus parasites. "Jess, listen to me," I said, my voice firm. "Tomorrow, you call a lawyer. We're getting you out, and we're getting you out whole. That house is yours and yours alone." A few days later, she called again, sounding stronger. "The house is going on the market, all cash offer, it's closing tomorrow." "Yes," I pumped my fist in my empty apartment. "That's my girl, where are you staying?" "Mom and Dad said I can stay as long as I need. They're already talking about helping me find a better place." Of course they were. "They even got a cake," she told me, her voice thick with emotion, "for my new life." That's when I felt the anger in my chest finally start to cool, replaced by this fierce, protective love for her. Those monsters had tried to dim her light, but her family was already there with candles to help her shine again. She told me they made her make a wish, even though it wasn't her birthday. "What did you wish for?" I asked her later that night on the phone. "For a future with only good people in it," she said softly. "Well, you've always had me," I shot back, making her laugh. That laugh was everything. I knew her other wishes without her having to say them. She wished for the strength she'd already proven she had, the strength to cut out the poison and build something new, the strength to remember she was Jessica Miller first, and that was more than enough. She was nobody's asset, nobody's stepping stone. While she was having cake, I was plotting. If Brian wanted to play the victim online, I was going to remind everyone who the real survivor was. I dug through my phone, finding the best pictures of Jess from the last few years, laughing, traveling, glowing. She deserved to be celebrated, not mourned. I posted a 9-photo grid of the most incredible meals we'd ever shared. My caption was simple: "Celebrating my sister's fresh start. From here on out, only the best for you." The comments blew up instantly. "Who got divorced?" someone asked. When someone else guessed, "Wait, not Jessica Miller." The floodgates opened. I let the "he's a mama's boy with a family of freeloaders" comment sit there without a single objection. My reply to all the nosy questions was a perfectly crafted line. "It's personal. We're just thrilled she's free." I smiled as I saw Jess's like pop up on the post. Then, late that night, my phone buzzed. It was a screenshot from her, a massive wall of text from Brian. "Ugh, what does he want now?" I texted back. I read his pathetic monologue out loud to my cat. "I swear I loved you. I just got blinded by greed. My parents, my sister." I scoffed. He's blaming his family for his own rotten choices. Classic coward. I told Jess, "Don't you dare fall for this. It's not an apology. It's a manipulation tactic." "He's not sorry he hurt you," I texted her, my thumbs flying. "He's sorry he got caught and lost his meal ticket." She asked what she should say. "Nothing," I told her. "Or, if you have to, just 3 words. Message received. Then you delete his contact and you block him on everything. Forever." And she did. I've never been more proud. The past was dead. We buried it. The next afternoon, she called me right after leaving the lawyer's office. She sounded shaky but triumphant. "It's done, Liv." She told me about the buyer, a sharp businessman named Mr. Jang, and how professional everything was, until the devil himself showed up. "He what?" I shrieked into the phone. "Brian barged into the meeting?" She confirmed it. He came in panting and slammed his hand on the contract to stop me from signing. I could just picture it. The sheer, unmitigated gall of that man. He thought he could intimidate her. He forgot who her best friend was. She told me how their lawyer, Mark, shut him down immediately, reminding him they were divorced and the house was legally hers. He didn't care, Jess said. He just kept saying it was their house, filled with their memories. My memories involved watching him drain the life out of her for 3 miserable months. Then came the best part. Jess told me, her voice laced with disbelief and amusement, he told the buyer the house had bad feng shui and anyone who lived there would get divorced. I howled with laughter. He said what? Oh, he is desperate. That is the most pathetic thing I have ever heard. Mr. Jang, a true king, apparently just chuckled and said he was a man of science. Jess told him to leave or she'd call security. My girl. She peeled his sweaty hand off the contract and signed her name. Freedom. She told me he whispered, "You are going to regret this," before he slunk out. No, Brian, no, she won't. She confessed she felt a little sad afterward, not for him, but for the naive girl she'd been. That girl had to die so this warrior could live, I told her. Don't mourn her. Thank her for getting you this far. That night, her bank account got a $1.35 million deposit. House funds are in, she texted me. Dinner's on me this weekend. You pick the spot. Your girl's a rich bitch now. My reply was instant. OMG rich lady. I'm picking the most expensive place. We were going to celebrate right. By the way, I added, got some tea for you. A friend of mine who knows everyone had just sent me the juiciest gossip. You'll never guess who's already back on the dating apps going on a spree. She didn't even have to guess. A friend of my friend's sister went on 3 dates last weekend, I typed, savoring every word, and one of them was the freshly divorced, heartbroken Brian Collins. So much for his tearful performance. So much for his undying love. And? She asked. And apparently, he was bragging about his almost startup and complaining about his crazy ex-wife, I wrote. He's telling everyone he's looking for someone who understands ambition. Translation: another woman to fund his life. He'll never change. Good, she replied, and I could feel the finality in that one word. It was really over. He was someone else's problem now. I poured myself a glass of wine, raising it to the picture of Jess on my mantel. To new beginnings, I said to the empty room, and to getting rid of the trash. We ended up at the most expensive steakhouse in the city. Jess looked radiant, lighter than I'd seen her in years. We ordered champagne and oysters and toasted to her future, to her freedom, and to the sweet, sweet satisfaction of watching a con man get exactly what he deserved. Nothing. As we were leaving, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my friend again. You won't believe this, but Brian's profile says he's a self-made entrepreneur, looking for a partner for life's adventures. I showed it to Jess. She just looked at it, shook her head, and started to laugh. A real, deep, joyful laugh. And I knew she was going to be more than fine. That laugh was the real sound of $1.35 million. It was the sound of her finally getting her life back, and I was there to witness every glorious second of it. He could have his pathetic dating profiles and his mommy issues. We had the future. I linked my arm through hers as we walked out into the cool night air. So, I said, squeezing her arm, about finding you good people. I think my cousin's friend is single. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. The healing had already begun. And I would be there every step of the way, just like I always had been. That's what best friends do. We help each other hide the bodies, or in this case, we help each other bury the trash and then go get champagne. It's basically the same thing. The woman he marries needs a house, a car, a fat savings account, and no brothers, I read aloud from my phone, my voice dripping with disgust. Oh, and her parents better have pensions. Who the hell is this guy? The Prince of freaking England? I could almost hear Jessica shaking her head on the other end of the line. But wait, this is the kicker. He's telling everyone his ex-wife, my Jess, Went bankrupt and he had to divorce her to save himself. The hero. I saw red. He's painting himself as some kind of martyr, she said, her voice impossibly calm. Let him, she sighed. A lie is a lie, even if a loser tells it 1,000 times. I was clenching my jaw so hard my teeth hurt. You're not even pissed? I asked. A little, she admitted. Not that he's trashing me, but that he's still so pathetic. He can't face the truth. I swear I could feel my best friend leveling up through the phone. On a much better note, I texted her a few days later. Dinner Saturday? Can I bring a +1? She sent back a dancing emoji. New guy. God, no, my cousin Mark, the lawyer. He wants to buy you a celebratory, you're finally free dinner. No way, I should be treating him. Fine, you can fight over the bill, I wrote back. Saturday, be there. I'd picked a quiet Japanese place, the kind with dark wood and soft lighting. I wanted her to feel relaxed. Mark and I were already there when she walked in, and my God, she looked like herself again. Jess! I yelled, waving like a maniac. She slid into the booth, her smile finally reaching her eyes. Mark, so good to see you. You too, Jessica. You look fantastic, he said, and he meant it. Couldn't have done it without you, she said. Order everything. It's on me. If you insist, Mark grinned, signaling the waiter. The second he was distracted, I leaned in, my voice a conspiratorial whisper. Okay. You will not believe the latest crap Brian's mother is spewing. She's telling anyone who will listen that you extorted $50,000 from them. 50,000? Jess actually laughed, a real honest-to-God laugh. I wish. Where would they even get that? My point exactly, I said, stabbing a menu with my finger. Nobody believes her. Oh, and bonus round. Brian's sister Linda is getting divorced. Her husband finally got sick of paying for that whole leech-like family. No way, Jess gasped. Fresh gossip. My coworker is friends with the husband. They're already separated. He's going for the house. Full custody. Everything. Said he bought it years before she was in the picture, and she never contributed a cent. It was a perfect, beautiful mirror of what those monsters tried to do to Jess. Mark took a sip of his tea, a small, knowing smile on his face. What goes around, he said calmly, tends to come around. Karma's great, but the law is better, he added. An asset owned before marriage is exactly that. You don't just get to claim things that aren't yours. When the sushi arrived, the tension broke. Mark was so easy to be around, smart, funny. Seriously, Mark, Jess said, raising her glass. Thank you. This whole thing would have been 1,000,000 times worse without you. Just doing my job, he said, touching his glass to hers. And for what it's worth, you were one of the sharpest, most decisive clients I've ever had. Someone like you is going to be more than fine. You're just being kind. She blushed. No, I'm not, he said, his eyes locked on hers. I see people get so broken by a bad marriage that they completely lose the will to fight for what's theirs. The fact that you saw the truth in 3 months and acted on it, that's not common. It's courage. She smiled, but I knew what she was thinking. It wasn't courage. It was survival. So, what are you going to do now? Mark asked. Breathe, she said. Maybe travel a little. Find a new job. Escape this special brand of hell. You've more than earned it, Mark said. And hey, any more legal questions? You call me. No charge. It's for a friend. I watched her start to protest, that polite reflex she has. I couldn't possibly. Oh, for God's sake, Jess, I cut in. My cousin's a good guy. Let him be nice to you. She finally relented. Okay, thank you, Mark. Just Mark, he said, his smile so gentle. My dad is Mr. Chen. After an amazing dinner, Mark offered her a ride, but she'd brought her own car. Thanks anyway, she said. He waited until she was buckled in and pulling away. A real gentleman. She called me when she got home. You will not believe who I just saw, she said, her voice flat. It was Brian. He was opening the door to a shiny BMW for some new girl outside a cafe. She said the girl had that same happy, clueless glow Jess used to have. The light turned green and she just drove away. watched his car disappear in her rearview mirror. And the craziest part? She told me she felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, just blank space, like he was a stranger. That's when I knew she'd won. It wasn't about revenge, it was about indifference. His story wasn't her problem anymore. Hers was just beginning, and the road ahead was finally clear. All she needed was that warm light at her parents' house, a safe place to land. And for the first time in months, that felt like everything. It was more than everything. She moved back home after the townhouse sold. Her mom went into full nesting mode, redoing her childhood bedroom with new everything. I went over and saw shelves lined with pictures of this tiny, gap-toothed kid. "Mom, you didn't have to," Jess said. "I'm not staying forever." "This will always be your home," her mom said, her voice thick. "Look at this one, your 5th birthday, your graduation." She pointed to each photo, a map of a life before him. I watched Jess just melt into her mom's arms. "Thank you," she whispered. I had to look away so they wouldn't see me tearing up. "As long as my baby is happy, I'm happy," her mom murmured, and she was. We fell back into our old rhythm: work, weekends with her folks, wine nights on my couch. The Collins family became a ghost story. I'd still get updates, of course. Brian's dating life was a complete train wreck. The women he wanted wouldn't touch him, and he was too arrogant for the ones who showed interest. Linda's divorce was final. She lost the house and custody. Sharon, the wicked mother, apparently had some stress-induced health crisis. I'd tell Jess, and she'd just say, "Oh," and change the subject. She was so over it, she couldn't even summon the energy to gloat, which frankly, I had enough of for the both of us. Then, in early November, she called me after her company's team-building trip. "So, I have to tell you about this weekend," she started, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "The bus is pulling out of the parking lot," she told me, "and Amy, my roommate for the trip, points a few rows ahead. And who do I see?" She paused for dramatic effect. "Your cousin, Mark Chen." Turns out the new intern had a massive crush and was offering him a bottle of water, like it was the Holy Grail. "Mark was there," I squeaked. "Apparently, he helped her company win some huge case, and this was their way of thanking him," she explained. "A little corporate schmoozing at a hot springs resort. Nice work if you can get it." Amy was apparently losing her mind, Jess continued laughing. "He's handsome, he's successful, he's single. Jess, you should go for it," she said, imitating her co-worker. I told her she was being ridiculous, that it was the last thing I was thinking about. I stayed quiet, but I was thinking, Amy's not wrong. She kept pushing, Jess said with a sigh. "Just get to know him." So I pretended to fall asleep. I could just picture it. But even with her eyes closed, she admitted she couldn't stop thinking about him. She insisted it was nothing, that her heart was boarded up and closed for renovations. I knew better. Later, she was soaking in this quiet, secluded, hot spring when a voice cut through the steam. "Enjoying the peace?" It was him. Mark. He was on the other side of the pool. They just sat in silence for a bit, and then he asked her, "How have you been, really?" And she told him the truth, that she felt good, lighter. And he looked right at her and said, "Sometimes ending the wrong thing is how you start the right one." Then he told her he was divorced. My jaw hit the floor. 5 years ago, she recounted. His ex-wife cheated. He tried to forgive her, but she didn't want it. They spent 2 years making each other miserable before ending it. Jess was floored, apologizing for not knowing. He just smiled and said it was ancient history, but that it taught him some people aren't worth fighting for. He told me letting go is a kindness to yourself, she said softly. Then he said my quick escape wasn't his doing, it was all me, that seeing the truth after only 3 months was remarkable. I smiled. He saw it. He saw the incredible, strong, brave woman my best friend had become. It didn't feel remarkable to her, but to us on the outside, it was everything. The first time I met Brian Collins, my internal alarm bells didn't just ring, they screamed. It was in his eyes, a flicker of calculation you see in a shark right before it bites. He looked at my best friend, Jessica, like she was a prize, but he looked at her house like it was the whole damn jackpot. And his mother, Sharon. Don't even get me started. At our very first dinner, she had the gall to ask about the Miller Family Trust. Not, how are you, but what's your net worth? I watched the light in Jess start to dim over the next 3 months, and it took everything in me not to scream. So when my phone rang late that Tuesday and I heard that single gut-wrenching sob, I knew. "Olivia?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "He's here, with his mom. They're moving in." A cold, vicious rage, the kind you only feel for someone you love, flooded my veins. "I'm on my way." I got the whole nightmare story through her tears. How Sharon waltzed into the master bedroom, claiming it. How Brian, that spineless parasite, talked about his brother Tim taking the guest room. They were carving up her life right in front of her, the life her parents had worked so hard to give her. "He put his arm around me," she choked out, and said it was our house now. And it just clicked, Liv. The wedding, the money, all of it. I wasn't his wife. I was just the key to the front door. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Good," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Now you see him." "What do I do?" she asked, her voice small again. "No, you listen to me," I commanded, pulling up to her curb. "You are Jessica Dam Miller. You are going to look that con artist in the eye and you are going to say one word, no. And then you're going to tell them to get the hell out of your house." I sat in my car and watched through the window as she opened the door. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the shift in her spine. I saw her pull away from his touch. I saw her point to the door. I saw his face twist from fake concern to the ugly, pure rage I knew was hiding underneath. The sound of that oak door slamming shut was the sweetest music I'd ever heard. It was a declaration of war and a victory all in one. A second later, my phone buzzed. It was a screenshot from Jess, a text from Brian. "You're making a huge mistake. You need me." I texted back instantly. "Block him. Block his mother. Block them all. And then you open this door and let your best friend in." I saw the screen light up in her living room, and then a moment later, the deadbolt slid back. The tears that came weren't for him. They were for the sweet, trusting girl who got swindled. I held her on the floor of her hallway while she mourned that part of herself, the part that had to be burned away to survive. We let her go together, which is why, watching her across the hot springs with Mark now, I finally feel like I can breathe again. She's talking, actually laughing. The hollowed-out look in her eyes is gone. He's hanging on her every word, and for the first time in months, she looks free. "He is so into her," Amy whispered, nudging me as she came to sit beside me. I just smirked. As he should be. She's a queen who just survived a dragon. Amy didn't know the half of it, but she could see the change. Later, at the bonfire, Mark pulled out a guitar. He started singing some old folk song, his voice warm and steady under the stars. I wasn't watching him. I was watching Jess. I saw her wrapped in a blanket, her face lit by the fire, and there was this tiny, hesitant smile on her lips. It was the look of a new beginning. She had fought her monster and won. She caught my eye from across the fire and gave me a small, grateful nod. I raised my beer to her. We didn't need words. She had walked through fire, and I had been there with the extinguisher, ready to fight alongside her. That's what we do. And as the last notes of the song faded into the crackle of the flames, I knew, deep in my bones, that the silence in her life was no longer terrifying. It was the sound of her taking it all back.